In 2012, I wrote a book called Webs of Influence, which was based on all this research from different disciplines. And in 2011, I coined the term web psychology and defined it as the empirical study of how our online environments, that's things like newsletters, apps, social platforms, websites, how all of these different environments influence our attitudes and more specifically our behaviours. So why do we do the stuff that we do online? And why would that change from one instance to the next? The reason it's useful is because it provides you, whether you're a marketer, you're in e-commerce, you're a designer, a product designer, with a psychological toolkit or roadmap that will help you to design more persuasive experiences, apps, websites, products, etc. In all the research that I did, there are three real sort of secrets, if you like, to online success. If you want to be successful online, you have to do these three things. The first is to know who you're targeting. We've heard about how psychographics are so important at giving us detailed information as to how to relate with people. That's super important. The second, once you know who you're targeting, is to be able to communicate persuasively. This kind of falls into two broad camps. So on the one hand, you've got, we all know this, you've got to modify your message depending on the channel that you're using. So if you've got a message or a marketing campaign or you're selling something, how will that message differ when you're on LinkedIn, which is quite formal, versus Twitter, which is perhaps a bit more wordy, versus Facebook, which is more visual, YouTube, which is more video-based. Okay. But the more interesting aspect of communicating persuasively is how to make the most of subconscious cues that we pick up on all the time to get people to trust us. No one will buy from you if they don't trust you, whether it's your message or donations for charity, whatever it is. So there are certain components to communicating persuasively that are really important. Third and final point, which is super important, whenever you're using persuasion principles, the question of ethics has to come up. In fact, it always comes up, and it should. And the reason that it's important is because if you're going to use persuasion principles, you have to make sure that it's with a positive intent, so of mutual benefit. Is this thing that I'm going to do going to help my customer, and is it going to help me too? And if you have a yes to both of those answers and there's mutual benefit, then I would say that persuasion is a positive thing because it makes everything more frictionless and easier. So key principles, how do you engage this motivation system online or in marketing? Well, weird thing about cues for sex. Obviously, you wouldn't be here unless your parents hadn't had sex. So we're all the product of an orgasm. So sex is super important. So online is not just going to be about showing pictures of naked people, unless that's what you're into. It's about much more subtle things. If you're selling products, you'll often just showcase the product. Harrods have done this really well. They've created kind of an experience, where you can see yourself in the back of a cab, which has got walnut dashboard, creating a sense of luxury through food images. I know. It's also one of the reasons why food porn is the most shared hashtag. We fetishize and ritualize our food, whether it's online or off. Okay, motion also engages the primal system, which is why these guys, you just want to, well, also they're cute, so we like things that have got big eyes. But also, I don't know if you've seen, around Christmas last year, there's this GIF, it's a white animated GIF, and it was in the ad size on your Google thing. I've now got ad blocks, so thank God I don't have to see it anymore. But it's basically an image, a line drawing of a woman with a fat belly, and it goes out and then it goes back in, yeah? And it's moving, and it goes like one weird tip to melt belly fat. Loads of psychological stuff going on there. So one weird tip, trigger words, numbers, you're going to click, or you're not going to click. Black on white, high contrast, the visual system loves that, and then the motion. I know as a psychologist exactly what it's doing. Do you think that makes any difference? I still have to look. I have to look, and then I hate myself for looking. So this system is really strong. The other thing that's important when you're engaged in the primal system is to make your message really tangible. We all talk in abstracts, especially if you're in law or if you're in, I don't know, e-commerce. But the primal system doesn't engage with abstracts. The subconscious mind doesn't engage in abstracts. If I said to you, don't think of a pink elephant, example, you're not hearing the don't think, you're just hearing the object, right? We respond to objects. Peak end rule. We tend to remember entire experiences based on the highs, the high peaks, and the low peaks, whether it was amazing or disastrous, and then also what happens at the end. Now, translate this into customer experience or onto a website. And how many of you have had this experience? By the way, when you pay for stuff online or in person, research has found that it activates a lot of the same centers in the brain that activate when you're in physical pain. Spending money is painful. Okay, so you're on your website, You've decided, you've got, you're like the 10% or the 3% who have decided that you're going to buy something from that site, okay? You're at the point where you're going to spend your money and it's painful. Well done for getting there. Then you land on this horrendous checkout page. The form is way too long. There's loads of asterisks. And you start reading. You're trying to put your postcode in. You don't know if it's like, you know, the 2 boxes or the 1 box. You get all these error messages until what happens? What do? You give up, you leave. You think, fuck, I'm not going to stay around here. It's already painful enough as it is. I'm trying to give you my money. Don't make it hard. Now, peak end experience is at the end, and it's a shockingly bad experience in a situation where they're feeling in pain already. There's a really simple way to switch this around. Some colleagues of mine in the Netherlands tried this, psychologists, and they found that it was very effective. 2 things that you can do: shorten your form length, reduce all the clutter so that you don't have any unnecessary information. And the second most important thing, reduce the number of asterisks, unless it's a quick checkout, but that's separate. And instead, every time someone fills in a form, give them a green tick. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you do that, what do you think you're going to feel? If you get a green tick, what does that say to you that the designers of the site have done?
Sense of achievement.
Sense of, and they're kind of going, we know this bit's a bit shit. We're giving you a tick just to say thanks. It's an acknowledgement that you're doing something that's valuable to them, and actually because of the cultural connotation of a green tick, you know, through school, in some places it's a red tick, in other countries it's something completely different, you're going to feel as though you're getting rewarded. It's also why scarcity works on websites. So this is an example of a theme. Obviously it's not finished its countdown. WordPress theme for events calendars showing you how many days and time you have left to buy a ticket. Don't miss the last seats here. The last seats, oh my God, I'm going to miss out. Anyone know Ashika? Does anyone? Okay, right. So I used to spend a lot of time on Ashika. I don't anymore because my bank balance depleted very swiftly and I ended up with loads of shit that I didn't need. So, so scarcity principle. Here, what I want to draw your attention to. Top right-hand corner, this is a limited sale website where you can buy fairly high-end-ish kind of products. So at the top, you have sale ends in 4 days, 1 hour. So if on a Wednesday, which is when research shows us that we tend to have a slump, Wednesday afternoon around 3 and 4, we go shopping a bit more online, you get into that slump and you think, right, I'm going to go look on Ashika for a great deal. You've got 4 days left. It's fine. Ages. Oh, I'll have a little browse. Gets to the weekend, you're with a glass of wine, the kids are in bed or your husband's out, whatever it is. And it's usually women who use it, but often maybe a 60-40 split towards females. Anyway, so you're chilling out the glass of wine and you think, oh, I'm going to go back online and check. You look at the clock in the top right-hand corner and you think, oh, 30 minutes left. Shit, I'd better get in there quickly. So you're scrolling. And the way that they've done it, another principle for you to take on, the Gestalt principle. We like closure. We like objects that are complete. If you're designing something for different size screens and you leave an object incomplete so you can just see the top, then people will want to keep scrolling down. And it's the same thing with arrows and things. Anyway, so they've done this on their website. So you keep scrolling to see all the stuff. And you get about halfway down and things are starting to sell out. You scroll all the way to the bottom. You think, OK, I'd better get back to the top. But time has elapsed while you've been watching this. And the product that you think you want is now, having said only 3 left, is now reserved. Big red letters. You've missed out. So what's happening while you're frantically refreshing the page? Some poor sod who's in this primal state, who's gone, oh my God, I need this thing, it's scarce, I've got to get it. He's on that form where they haven't optimized and they've got loads of asterisks and he can't fill it out because there's no green ticks. He loses the item, you refresh the page, you get it, and you check out and you end up with something you just don't need. Right? This happens. And the reason that it happens so well is it gets you into this state of urgency with the scarcity principle. Time's running out, stock's running out. You can also create emotional engagement through identifying a wider positive impact that your product or your service is having. Great example, given goods company, you buy a product and it shows you an impact map. So again, making it really tangible and concrete what it is that you're doing. You buy some glasses, it shows you exactly where you're helping people. So this, I think it's Oregon in the US. It shows you specifically what you're going to get them, job and vocational training. And if you go out to the checkout page on this particular site and you haven't seen any of that before, then they still give you story and impact underneath. Tell you who you're helping, what it's doing, how it's doing it, and where it's doing it. And it gives you a physical map so that it makes it more real. Remember, contrast and concrete, make your message real. So identifying a wider impact is something that you can do. And that's the question to ask yourself if you want to bring that into your marketing. Okay, so we already talked a little bit about body language for communicating persuasively. What can you tell me about the body language up here of this woman on this website? Is it open? Yeah? Where's she blading? Where's her body? It's towards the writing, right? So what you tend to find in eye tracking studies is that the eye goes, first of all, onto a page or onto a piece of, it could be anything, it could be offline or online, where there's really high contrast in saturation and brightness. So white on black is really, really high contrast. So typically, you'll see the get first, but then we're also programmed to look for faces, for opportunities to connect. So you'll probably then bounce to the face. Because she's giving you the social cue, she's looking in the direction that she wants you to look. You know, like when you're standing in the street and someone's looking somewhere, and if you put your finger up, then everyone will, even if you're just kind of like, I don't want to look, you just do it anyway. So they're doing this in this website. So you look at the get, you look at her face, you look at where she's blading, you move back, get anything you want, arrow down, call to action, get it. Very primitive language. So it's nothing about subscribe here, join up now, buy X, Y, and Z, it will help you triple your sales. It's more get anything you want, look at the face, follow the arrow, get it, bosh, job done. Okay, so this is why these things are important, because it applies to every single piece of content that you create, whether it's for iPad sales aid, flyers, emails, marketing campaigns, etc. Storytelling. Loads of people talk about storytelling. It's fantastic. But people often don't talk about storytelling for really boring things. So here's an example of a fairly boring thing. Is anyone wearing any corduroys? Cords? No. Oh, yes. Are you a teacher? I can tease you because you're Jamie. Hi, Jamie. Yeah. What kind of cords are you wearing? Blue. Blue. Oh, see, that's a bit cool. All right, so my husband wears cords. These are sort of geography teacher cords. So I don't know, when you go to school and you've got like a geography or history teacher and they smell of tobacco and stuff. Like the pipe, not the fags. Anyway. Very sort of specific schema about teachers. So corduroys are not particularly sexy. Maybe if you get them in like pink or blue, fine. But brown cords, not that sexy. So this website, it's for a brand in the US called Beta Brand who do loads of different products. And they decided to make it a bit more unusual. So you go onto the page, and I'm told by my friend who's a female tailor on Savile Row that this term doesn't exist. Evil eye pockets, right? We're not in Turkey. There's no such thing, okay? So you're looking at that, you're like, that's a little bit curious. It's not quite right. So you keep scrolling down. It goes cord arounds, they've changed the name, cord arounds, mesh evenly, lowering the average wearer's crotch heat index, CHI, reading by up to 22%. Now, gentlemen, did you know that you have a crotch heat index? You don't have a crotch heat index. They made this shit up, but they've made a story. Look, Cambridge scientists, they even have an equation. It must be true. And a red patch. Oh, anyway, so the point is they've created a story out of a product that's really quite bland and uninteresting. So key takeaways. To be persuasive online, whether in e-commerce or marketing, you have to target all three systems. So your messaging, your content, and your website has to target the emotional system, the primal, and the rational. So it has to be arousing, that's sex, food, motion, emotionally effective, images of faces, body language, etc. And then you have to be able to post-rationalize the decisions that your customers have already made at a primal and emotional level.